Shabbat Shalom. To all of us here in the sanctuary, in this Beit Tfilah, and to all of you who are online, the electronic version of a Beit Tfilah. So glad that everyone is here with us tonight. And to formally welcome our congregation, I invite the second Vice President of the congregation, Benjamin Bloom.
Good evening, Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to Spring Hill Avenue, Tiffel. On behalf of the President Gil Layden and the board, Executive Board and the trustees, I'd like to welcome you all to Spring Hill Avenue Temple's Shabbat service. Look forward to a beautiful evening, and decided to feel a little dressed up tonight. I don't really like dressing up. I'm wearing jeans. So Shabbat Shalom, everybody. We hope to enjoy. Thanks.
And so we turn to page 7 in our booklet as we begin with Hine Matov V'Manayim. Behold how beautiful it is for us to live together even in this Mobile rainy weather, but together as one. Hine Matov V'Manayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Hine Matov V'Manayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Hine Matov Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Hine Matov Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Hine Matov Manayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Hine Matov Manayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Ma yafa hayom. How beautiful is this day of Shabbat. Ma yafa hayom. Shabbat Shalom. Ma yafa hayom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat And now I would like to invite Iris and Callie to come step forward to formally welcome Shabbat by lighting the Shabbat candles. They will be on page 2 and 1 in our booklet.
So may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of generations of Israel who have kindled the light, so may we. And in our day be among those who tender love.
Please rise.
Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvah, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Please be seated. Continue with me on page 4. Where has this week vanished? Is it lost forever? Will I ever recover anything from it? The joy of life, the unexpected victory, the realized hope, the task accomplished. Will I ever be able to banish the memory of pain, the sting of defeat, the heaviness of boredom? On this day, let me keep for a while what must drift away. On this day, let me be free of the burdens that must return. On this day, Shabbat, abide together. Help me to withdraw for a while. We also welcome Shabbat with the beautiful mystical hymn of L'Chadodi as we welcome the Sabbath bride. We continue on page 8 and 9 of our booklet, the words of L'Chadodi.
Shamor v'zachor
continue welcoming Shabbat through song. On page 10 in our booklet, we share together in the words of Shalom Aleichem, that beautiful hymn in which we acknowledge the ministering angels that accompany us through life, but especially for Shabbat. Let's read the translation of Hogel there on page 10 of the words that we will share here in song. Peace be to you, O ministering angels, ministers of the Most High, Majesty, Majesty, Holy One of blessing. Enter in peace, O messengers of peace, angels of the Most High, Majesty of majesties, Holy One of blessing. Bless me with peace, O messengers of peace, angels of the Most High, Majesty of majesties, Holy One of blessing. Depart in peace, O messengers of peace, angels of the Most High, Majesty of majesties, Holy One of blessing. Hakadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, the Holy Blessed One, filling our life with blessings. This is the time now to really take a moment to thank Hakadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One of blessings, for all the blessings in our life. On page 11. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Amen. Yom adivrachir et v'yamlich malchutei. בחיי כל וביום כל חיי דכל בית ישראל בגולה ובזמן קריב ימרו אמן יהי שמי רבם מבורך לעולם עולם מעלמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה בריחו לילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה. Please rise. תשבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה וימרו אמן. Praise Adonai, to whom praise is due forever. Together, praise be Adonai, to whom praise is due now and forever. The top of page 13, together. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv v'ravim. In the middle of page 14, we continue responsively. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol.
All these things your Torah gives to us.
And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives.
What could be a truer token of your abiding love?
Together, then this holiest of your works, and the living language that gives it form. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael.
Adonai, Eloheinu, Adonai
Please be seated. Continuing with the words which follow the Shema, both in our prayer book and in the Torah, but in English. On page 19, we share together in our Song of Freedom the words of Mika Mocha.
Lord,
turn to page 20, we have our evening prayer. This blessing, my Father, of blessed memory, always referred to as that familiar prayer, "Now I lay me down to sleep." Because that's what this prayer is all about, asking God to keep our souls, to keep us, preserve us in God's divine hands through the night, the ha'amidenu, and then cause us to rise up to life in the morning, something that each of us prays for, I know, every night. Let's read together, if we can, on page 20. Grant, O God, that we may lie down in peace, till life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing.
For you,
God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our going and coming to life and to peace evermore. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai, haporech sukat shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu. Cause us, please, God, O Holy One, to lie down tonight, l'shalom, in peace.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomrenu l'chayim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomrenu l'chayim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomrenu l'chayim. Ushmor tzitenu u'ma'enu l'chayim v'shalom v'ata v'olam. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomrenu l'chayim.
Hamidenu
Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomrenu l'chayim.
Hamidenu
Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomrenu l'chayim.
Now on page 22, Kedushat Hayom. We sanctify this day of Shabbat in so many ways. And of course, for me, my most favorite way is through song. We will, though, these words of Torah in the middle of the page that define and tell us one of the ways to celebrate Shabbat is through these words. Please join me. The people of Israel shall keep Shabbat observing Shabbat throughout the ages as a covenant for all time. It is a sign for all time between me and the people of Israel. For in 6 days Adonai made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day God ceased from work and was refreshed. Now we turn to page 23 as we rise for the central part of our service, the tefillah. Adonai, Zifatai Tivtach, Ufi Agita Ilatecha, Adonai, Zifatai Tivtach, Ufi Agita Ilatecha. Oh God, open up my lips as I begin to pray. Oh God, open up my lips as I begin to pray. Adonai, Zifatai Tivtach, Ufi Agita Ilatecha. Adonai, Zifatai Tivtach, Ufi Agita Ilatecha. Oh God, open up my lips as I begin to pray. Oh God, open up my lips as I begin to pray.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Leah, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor v'Nahorah, אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מקייך כל אתה רב להושיע. מקלקל קיים בקסם, מקייך כל ברחמים רבים, צומח נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומחיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומדום לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה. ונאמן אתה להגיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני מקיים הכל.
Continuing on page 27. You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. Please be seated. Continuing on page 29 in the middle of the page with the Avodah section of our service. Together, you are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levadecha, b'yir'ah na'avod. And our prayer of thanksgiving on page 30, in the middle of the page. When we behold your heavens, the work of your fingers together, the moon and stars that set in place, what are we humans that you are mindful of us? We mortals that you take note of us. You made us little less than divine, adorned us with glory and majesty. You give us dominion over your handiwork, laying the world at our feet. How majestic is your name throughout the earth. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulecha na'eh lehodot. Our prayer, Birakat Shalom, our blessing of peace. Shalom Rav al Yisrael, on page 31. Together, grant abundant peace to Israel, your people forever. You are the sovereign God of all peace. May it be pleasing to you to bless your people Israel in every season and moment with your peace. Blessed are you, Adonai, who blesses your people Israel with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, Israel, Bashalom.
Shalom Rav Yisrael
pause now for peace in our hearts, for our own personal prayers of shalom. Our hearts being filled with the words from the psalmist, Yehiyu liratzonim refi, v'hegyon libi lefanecha, Adonai, tzuri v'goali. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, O Lord, the very foundation of my being, my rock, and my strength. We pause for prayer. So, when was the last time that you heard one of your parents say, "Because I'm your mother or your father, and I said so"? Well, do you remember the first time that you heard these words? Well, a few years ago, when my siblings and I had gathered to celebrate our mother's 80th birthday, we started sharing memorable moments from our youth. without exception, one of the recurring memories we shared with one another was our mother saying just these very 8 words. For me, they were such an integral part of my growing up that I just consider them one of the laws of nature. You know, like, don't cross your eyes like that, they'll get stuck that way. Or, do you have to do every dumb thing that your friends do? Can't you think for yourself? Of course, as much as I wanted to respond with, oh, Mom, of course I can think for myself. Unfortunately, the dumb thing that my friend and I had just done made that response worthless. It wasn't until I was older and became a parent that I realized that Mother Nature never demanded that a frustrated parent utter these words. For the parents here, how many of you remember the first time you found yourself saying these words to your child? I was dealing with a 2-year-old son who kept asking, as 2-year-olds will do, and by the way, that is a law of nature, they kept asking why to everything. At one point, in complete exasperation, I found myself uttering these often quoted words of parental defense. Because I'm your father and I say so. I was immediately shocked and mortified. All I could think of was the promise I made to myself that when I got older and had kids, I would never say that to them. Well, maybe the laws of nature really do apply after all. So, as we entertain, as entertaining as this little anecdote may be, you're probably asking yourself, Rabbi, what does this have to do with this week's Torah portion? Well, for the past week, the Jewish communities around the world have been reading and studying the portion called Chukat. This portion begins with the rather puzzling ritual of the ashes of the red cow, or as we call it in Texas, the red heifer. In Chukat, which translates into ritual laws, we also find that the Israelites are getting that much closer to the time when they will enter into the promised land. And it is also in this portion that both Miriam and Aaron die. Now, last week's Torah portion spoke of the rebellion of some of the priestly families under the leadership of Korach. The rebellion by Korach actually represented by a secular and religious revolt, which came about in order that a select group might wrestle power from Moses and Aaron for themselves. On the other hand, this week, we are less than a month away from that national celebration in which we commemorate our rebellion against the British Crown in the mid-1700s. From this rebellion, we learn a different kind of moral lesson. The American Revolution became, as President Lincoln stated in his famous Gettysburg Address, an opportunity to form a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And the moral lesson? Freedom for all and not just a few. But at this week's Torah portion, it is the Israelites who once again rise up to challenge the leadership of Moses and Aaron. They rebel and cry out for water in a way that really says, what kind of a leader are you? A real leader would have anticipated our needs and provided us with water. Well, even Moses proves to be vulnerable to this challenge. It is not the first time that Moses calls out to God, why have you saddled me with this difficult people? Unfortunately, Moses' frustration turns into saying, because God said so, to take action out of the anger. Where was he commanded? Where he was commanded to only speak to the rock, he strikes it instead. Well, as a side note, some of you may be confusing a retelling of this same event in the book of Exodus, where Moses is commanded to strike the rock, but he hits it twice. Well, either way, the outcome remains the same. Moses and Aaron are barred from entering the promised land. This passage has great significance on many levels. Unlike the previous story of rebellion by Korach and his followers, who were put to death for their rebellion, this time it was not the Israelite who suffered directly for the rebellion, it was Moses and Aaron. God considered Moses' actions so egregious that God declares that the two brothers will not be able to enter into the promised land. And why was Moses punished? And why was Aaron punished as well? Well, some rabbinic commentaries say that it was in addition to the sin of the golden calf, Aaron, knowing that his brother possessed a violent temper, as a side note, you may remember a much younger Moses striking and killing an Egyptian taskmaster who was beating a Hebrew slave. Well, some feel that Aaron had a responsibility as a leader to help Moses contain his anger. Well, like a parent whose child has pushed them beyond the breaking point, Moses strikes out. His staff may have hit the rock, but you know he would have pummeled each and every Israelite if he could. Some of the early rabbis felt that his uncontrolled violence was inexcusable and saw this as a moral lesson to be taught to every generation. For me, I have to say that every time I read these verses, I can't help but think of these often repeated words of parental distress. To be sure, Moses and Aaron would have been better off if Moses had just said, "Because God said so." Well, we are now speaking in Torah chronology beyond this infamous rebellion of Korach, and now moving into the next rebellion. What makes this transition of special note for us as we approach the 4th of July is that it answers the question, what happens when you win the revolution? What do you do as individuals and as a people after all the battles have been won? For the Torah, it was simple. You live your life in such a way that anyone could look at us and say we are deserving of praise and honor. A revolution by itself, whether by Korach and his followers or by the early colonists, is just the beginning. The true test in its success or failure lies in what we become. As holy vessels of the divine essence of God, and as the people of this sacred text upon which the foundation of so much of our country is based, we should take great pride in all the United States of America represents and for which she stands. As I mentioned at the outset, it is in this portion that both Miriam and Aaron die. The fear of death and dying is an emotional reality with which humanity has wrestled in terror and in dread since the dawn of creation. Out of this sense of fear, we have created numerous rituals to help us ward off illness and death. We knock on wood to awaken the little people so that they will spend their energies and perhaps even some of their magic to bring us good fortune, health, and even life itself. For some in the Jewish community, the hanging of a mezuzah on the doorpost of our home provides similar protection. When the Israelites rebel, they become consumed by the fear of their own imminent death in the desert. They gather themselves together, as the Torah states, against Moses and against Aaron, immediately following the death of his sister Miriam. They become disconnected from their humanity. Little more than children, they become so self-absorbed in their own fears that they fail to fulfill that simple divine obligation, or mitzvah, of coming together to honor the death of a loved one. Instead of gathering as a community of mourners, they become a mob of rebellious individuals. They fail to mourn the death of one of their leaders, Miriam, and even worse, they prevent Moses and Aaron from mourning the loss of their sister. In Jewish tradition, we are encouraged to take time out of our lives to acknowledge that we have lost a loved one, that we are in pain. Instead of striking out in fear or anger, we look to one another for support and encouragement. Well, according to Eitz Chaim, the Torah and commentary, the loss of a loved one can be an opportunity for us to look more closely at our own lives, to scrutinize our behavior for possible faults and defects, so that we become more of what they themselves would have wanted us to be. Eitz Chaim states, in the wake of a good person's death, we are motivated to re-examine our own lives. Each of us experiences mourning in a different way each time grief comes upon us. When grief overpowers us, when we become disconnected from our family and community, then we miss out on an incredibly important part of healing. We lose our touch with community. Well, that's what happened with the Israelites after Miriam dies. They lose their sense of community. Although congregating as one large mob, each person's fear actually isolated one from the other. Each person's individual fears becomes their sole focus. That is not, however, what happened when Aaron and then Moses dies. The Israelites come together for 30 days, for Shloshim, and they mourn. not only as individuals, but as a community. The Torah doesn't tell us why there was an established 30-day mourning period for Aaron and then Moses, but not for Miriam, who died first. In Bavli Moed Katan in the Talmud, we find that the early rabbis wrestled with this issue. They correct this iniquity by saying that Miriam, like Moses, died with a divine kiss. Does this resolve the inequity? Well, perhaps. But the early rabbis also comment that the immediate proximity of the purifying ritual involved with the ashes from the red cow and Miriam's death was not accidental. The Torah was informing us that just as these ashes brought atonement after death, so too does the death of a righteous person. Miriam's death is seen as a healing moment for the community. Unfortunately, the Israelites were too preoccupied with their own miseries to see it. So as we move into this Shabbat, I would encourage us to pause and reflect, to celebrate the blessed memories of loved ones no longer with us in life, to honor those important brave men and women who risked their lives to preserve our safety and freedom, many whose lives have become a sacrifice so that we, their children, could live in peace. Next month, as we celebrate the 4th of July with fireworks and outdoor grilling, with picnics and all that good stuff, let us also reflect on what role rebellion plays within our lives. To go beyond the end of a rebellion and move on to the days, years, and even generations that follow. Are we motivated by concerns of preserving the civil liberties of others? Or are we reacting out of fear, anger, frustration, and self-interest? Have we accepted the responsibilities incumbent upon us within our family and our community? For it is within our family that we are loved and supported. It is within our community that we share that same love and support with others during their time of joy and their time of grief. If we do, then we, the descendants of Jacob, we who are the people of Israel, will live up to the words of praise and blessing found in next week's Torah portion. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael. How goodly are your tents, O Jacob, and your dwelling places, O Israel. May our homes be places of love and peace, and may the divine source of blessing dwell within each of us. May this truly be a Shabbat of peace for each one of us. And to this prayer may we all say, Amen. Shabbat Shalom and good Shabbos.
Open up our eyes, teach us how to live, fill our hearts with joy and all the love you have to give. Gather us in peace as you lead us to your name, and we will know that you are one. Open up our eyes, teach us how to live, fill our hearts with joy and all the love you have to give. Gather us in peace as you lead us to your name, and we will know that you are one.
That was beautiful. And now I invite my son Ben to come forward again. And Mime, if you'd like to come with him, that's okay. For announcements.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone, again. Before I say announcements, I guess I should say thank you to Rabbi Kaplan for helping us through a very difficult year. And it's been a real treat to have him around. Okay, don't cry. Okay, good. Off the cuff speaking is clearly not my thing, folks. The temple is now open, of course, for in-person Shabbat services. We welcome all of you to be a part of it if you're comfortably able. Look forward to seeing you every Shabbat, either via Zoom or in person. The temple is updating its membership information. If you are not able to attend the annual meeting that happened last Sunday or attend via Zoom, you will be mailed a form to update your current information. Liz and Miriam Fry are handling the updating job successfully and wonderfully, I'm sure. All members who return their forms by the deadline, to be determined based on the mailing, will be entered into a raffle to win something. Temple Gift Shop has acquired a lovely Star of David pendant. It's a 10-karat white gold with 0.25 carat diamonds. Purchase for yourself or as a gift for somebody else. For info and pricing, contact please Amy Friedlander. And Glenn Munchnick, a longtime beloved teacher both in the religious school and in the public school system, and a former religious school director here, a former temple president. He's done a lot, and he's also now written a book, Everybody's Got Soros. It's about his journey coping with cancer and other life and death issues around him. It's a poignant, introspective story that offers fascinating insights, and it's also available on Amazon.com. Religious school, of course, is currently out of session for the summer, and the next Torah study with Rabbi Boraz is scheduled for July 7th. I'm guessing it's still a Wednesday. Still a Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Torah study is open for in-person sessions and for those, again, who are wishing to stay home. For those who have the COVID vaccine, you're welcome to join. The Zoom option, of course, is still available. And certainly would love anybody to participate that wishes. I'd also like to take a moment to invite up our president, Glenn Layden, to come share some words.
Thank you for making that exception to the COVID rules. Let me come up here. I appreciate that. Rabbi, last Sunday at our annual meeting, Jack Freelander talked about how meaningful the Zoom services were this past year. And you think about on the two-dimension monitor that we all watch from home, but you added that third dimension to all and then made it that much more meaningful for us all. And you may have added a fourth and fifth dimension, except I think Billy Davis and Marilyn McCoo may charge me with copyright infringement at the fifth dimension, so we'll let that go. But nonetheless,
I understood that.
Exactly, but nonetheless, it was indeed a special year to have you here with the challenges of the pandemic, and you still kept us together in so many ways. And all of us I want to tell you that I know this will be the end of your tenure as the rabbi, but I know you're going to be coming back into our congregation many times. Come through that side door, and I want you to notice when you look at the next time you're there, you're going to see this plaque that we will put up there. Let me see if I can get this thing out. I was trying to protect it. Let's see, here we go. And I want to read to you what it says to Rabbi John Kaplan in honor of your splendid rabbinical leadership 2020-2021 from your grateful friends and congregants. So you'll see that. Job well done, my friend. Thank you.
That is so, that really is.
And that's not the end of it. Your friends over here that you've been soon to be with have something special for you as well. So.
I wasn't going to speak, but Rabbi, you've shared so much music with us. Sorry to run over you. You've shared so much music with us, and I have to say that a lot of these arrangements that you've heard tonight were arranged by Rabbi Cantor Kaplan. And you've just shared that with us and beautified our services. And it's been wonderful working with you. And I thought I would arrange something for you. So it's Debbie Friedman arranged by me for you. It expresses the way we feel as we send you on your way, but not too far away.
Not too far. May you be blessed as you go on your way. May you be guided in peace. May you be blessed with health and joy. May this be your blessing. Amen. Amen. May this be your blessing. Amen. Amen. May this be your blessing. Amen. May you be sheltered by the wings of peace. May you be kept in safety and in love. May grace and compassion find their way into your soul. May this be your blessing. Amen. Amen. May this be your blessing. Amen. May this be your blessing. Amen. It's been a pleasure.
You're such a special friend. See you again soon. You come back.
Linda, make note, please. It's the first time I'm speechless. Oh. As beautiful as this Shabbat is, and it certainly is very beautiful, we know that we have members of our congregational family in which this is not, for them, a beautiful Shabbat. It could be some of you here in this room that, as wonderful as Shabbat is, there's still the trials that come in life physically, in so many different forms. Physically and emotionally, and perhaps even spiritually. And so we share together in our prayer of healing, calling us together. to come together as a community to support and strengthen one another during the times in which we have joy and then times when we have sorrow. I'm going to ask my son to share the names of our members of our congregation. I will then invite those who are on Zoom to share those names that they wish to bring into the sanctuary. And then I will ask each of you here in the sanctuary.
This week and month, our prayers for healing are extended to Molly Adams, Nora Eloise Paleo, Paul Bradley, Mac David, Harold Fink, Ellie Cromers, Robin Mayer, Murray Muchnick, Mark Schoenfeld, Mark Siegel, and Harriet Steidelman.
And now those of you in Zoom, if you would care to unmute yourself and to bring your voice and your loved one into the sanctuary at this time.
Mammy Grossman.
Buck Richards.
And now I invite those of you here in the sanctuary, as I look in your way,
Alice Glass, Carol Newhoff, and Dale Carson.
Dr. John Johnson, Rabbi Horace's wife Maggie.
My God is in Florida.
on page 34, just below the Hebrew, together we read, "May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill. May the Blessed Holy One, filled with compassion for their health, to be restored and their strength to be restored. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit. And let us say, Amen." And now, as we turn to page 35, we rise to join together in the Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabbat v'adon hakol, v'atei k'dula yotzei b'reshit, shelo atzanu ki goyei aratzot, v'lo משפחות האדמה, שלא שם את חלקנו כהן, וגורלנו ככל המונה. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. Please be seated. In nature's ebb and flow, God's eternal law abides. When tears dim our vision or grief clouds our understanding, we often lose sight of God's eternal plan. Yet we know that growth and decay, life and death, all reveal a divine purpose. God, who is our support in the struggles of life, is also our hope in death. We have set God before us and shall not despair. In God's hands are the souls of all the living and the spirits of all flesh. Under God's protection we abide, and by God's love are we comforted. O life of our life, soul of our soul, cause your light to shine into our hearts and fill our spirits with abiding trust in you. Our thoughts turn now to those loved ones who've departed this earth. Our own loved ones and those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. And now I invite Ben to come forward again to share our congregation's list for Yahrzeit.
This week we remember Marion Frank, remembered by Mr. and Mrs. Richard Frank. Mickey Levy, a yahrzeit observed by Dr. and Mrs. Nate Ginsburg. Martin Lurch Sr., observed by Mr. and Mrs. Glenn Muchnick. Louis Simon, observed by Cecile and James Spain. Helen Small, observed by the many Muchnick families and the Small family. And Joseph Zulofsky, observed by Mr. and Mrs. Gary Gamble.
And now, once again, I invite those of you who are on Zoom to unmute yourselves and to be able to share the name of your loved one. And now, those of you here in the sanctuary, is there a name you would add to the list?
Mr. Bumpy, Steve Warsaw, and Mr. McConnell.
For the names we've said aloud and the names we hold in our hearts, we rise as one congregational family, and on page 43, we share together in the words of the Kaddish Aton. Together, Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah v'olma divrah chirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon u'vyomechon u'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael ba'agolal v'izman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olmei olmaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yithale v'yithala shmei d'kudisha b'richu le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbakata v'nechemata da'amiran be'olma v'imru. Amen. Yehi Shlomo Rabba Min Shemaya V'Chayev Aleinu Ve'akol Yisrael V'Imru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'Mroma Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'akol Yisrael V'Imru Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, and then through our hands may we help bring peace to the hearts of those who mourn. Together we say, Amen. I could invite my family to come up for us for Kiddush and Mosey. Do a little really karate here.
Walk faster. I'm just kidding. So sweet.
A little break. Join me, please. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hachasen. Amen.
Take a sip, or you want your chocolate? There we go. Oh, shall we?
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Mine.
Share with us.
Good Shabbos, everyone. Shabbat Shalom.
Rabbi, you're not going to get off so quickly. One more thing. Always one more thing. I know you're leaving tomorrow, so that's a special day. But I also understand tomorrow is also a special day in your life in Linda's because you're going to be observing your 29th anniversary. That's right. You forgot. Congratulations, and I think Christopher, all of us would like to join in.
Everyone knows the tune. Happy anniversary to you.
Happy anniversary